Hey, everybody. Welcome to SmashBoxxTV, podcast 587. Easy peasy. I do everything for Smashbox's YouTube channel, usually in Firefox. I do everything for the Disc Golf Guy channel in Chrome. And apparently, what I needed to do is somehow go live in Chrome here. So hopefully, everything is working. Hopefully, you guys are here and able to join. And I'm going to give it just a second or two to confirm as much. I'm going to do some typing. Everything, thank you, Dave from the Dyers Guild. Everything looked good to go. I clicked the go live button and it just was sitting there and spinning. So clearly, when it was all said and done, that was ultimately a Firefox issue. So hopefully we're good to go. Tonight's going to be a relatively quick show. It was about to be no show with everything that was going on there a moment ago. But now, if you guys could just give me a confirmation that audio and video are as good as they can be, now that something is working. It was so infuriating to click on the button, have it go live, and it just was sitting and spinning. So I'm glad now it appears to be working. Merry Christmas from Louisville. Well, that's the question. Is it Louisville, as in down in Kentucky, or is that Louisville from Colorado? Because same spelling, yet somehow completely different pronunciation. Is that a homonym? I don't know. This is not the time to try and get smart. So, hello, welcome in, everyone. If you haven't noticed already, it is just me solo. I was so excited to be on time because we never are when Johnny V presses the buttons, but technology failed me. So, welcome in. Quick show here tonight just to say hello and go over a few topics. Obviously, I'll answer any questions. If it's more question-driven tonight, that's totally cool as well. But I've got a few topics that I can discuss on a solo basis. Then we'll see what you guys have. Then we'll wrap things up so I can go wrap presents. Yeah, something like that. Hope all is well. I'm going to read real quick. What's up? Hey, Aaron. Aaron. Logging in with a different login. Is that what you're doing? Getting all feisty over there? Good to see you. And then he says, Kentucky. I'm actually at Churchill Downs right now, home of the Kentucky Derby. Louisville. Yeah, well, again, in Colorado, where I often go to film the Rocky Mountain Women's, good friend of ours, Jeff, lives in right there in that neighborhood, across practically from that course. And it's, I think they call it Louisville, which I thought was hilarious. So, all right, let me run through a few things here tonight. Again, it's going to be a short show. Let's start with New Year's Eve activity. If you happen to be in the greater Milwaukee area, I have finally just a day or two ago posted that I'm going to host a Luna Battle Pack challenge. What did I call it? The Luna Battle Pack Solo Doubles? Double solo. I don't know. I should have went with something about player 2 is actually what I should have went with, but too late. Basically what it is, you get a Luna pack, you purchase a Luna pack. That's your player's pack. I know, creative. You'll get the Luna pack. Then you get to go play this incredibly short and easy course using only your Lunas. However, you're going to play best shot with them. So you'll throw the first one off the tee. I don't care which of the two Lunas. You'll throw the first one off the tee. Then you'll have the chance to right away go ahead and throw the second one off the tee. You get to choose which one you want to play from. And then you, in theory, would have 2 shots from there as well. I expect you to be putting on almost every hole on this course. There's very few trees. It's meant as a beginner-friendly, short and easy course. This is a way, really, you're getting the Luna Battle Pack, or the Luna Pack, as ultimately the entire player's pack. And then you're just a chance to go and throw them right away. That's all it is. There's no additional payouts. If somehow I got enough people to pre-reg, I'd make up a little trophy or two, but that's what I'm going to do is have you guys come out, play. I want to say it's from 1 to 1:45 is the official check-in. You can rip your pack and we can film it and do all that fun stuff. And hopefully maybe you got a limited edition pack. Maybe you don't want to throw the really cool pack that you got and you want to buy another pack at a slight discount. I'm offering that. But the premise is that you come out and then we get 18 quick holes in. It's a 9-hole course. 18 holes will probably take us less than an hour. I don't even know if it'll take that long. we ripped through that course pretty quick. It's Spazland Park in Germantown, Wisconsin. It's all on Disc Golf Scene. Let me know if you're interested, if you're in the area. And if somehow there's enough response and we wanted to do it 24 hours later on New Year's Day, I think that could be arranged as well. Clearly, there's not a whole lot of setup. It's just all about you getting the battle pack. Someone said, well, do I have to play? No, you don't have to. If you want to just buy a battle pack and rip it open in front of us to show us what you got, that's cool too. I just figured it would be a fun way for everyone to go out and play. You get 2 shots from every lie, and we'll see if somebody should shoot 18 under. There might be multiples. The course is really that easy. 9-hole course. You play it through twice with the Luna. So that's happening New Year's Eve. If there's enough response, I could do it New Year's Day. If you're in the Illinois area and you want to play one of the nicest courses in the Midwest that has been featured on a Disc Golf Pro Tour even, and you want to play Delwood, they're offering an out with the old, and then on New Year's and in with the new flex start both days. So there's a flex start on New Year's Eve and a separate flex start on New Year's Day. Those are something that I would highly recommend if somebody wants a PDGA sanctioned round. Go out and do that. Just remember, I got to put this pen down before I get too feisty with it. Just remember, you will need to, if you want to not pay extra fees toward the PDGA, just have your membership renewed at some point. Get it renewed because you will need to have it be current for the Monday flex start, so you're not subject to any additional PDGA fees. So for many years, I've run a tournament called Chaining in the New Year, kind of a last-ditch PDGA event, and I always was intentional about running it before January 1st because I already knew if you were a current PDGA member that it would then hold you over and that would count toward it. Whereas if you run it in the early part of the season, some people think, man, I'm not really playing much until February or March or April, and they don't really feel like renewing their membership right around the expensive holiday season. And so I always made sure to position it at the prior to the start of the new year. So anyway, I'm like kind of giving you multiple things to go play and do. There's sanctioned, there's unsanctioned, there's battle packs, whatever. Those are all different options and some things going on. So that's happening New Year's Eve, and I wanted to make everyone aware of it. Something else, I don't want this to sound as much like a plug as it's going to be. A couple days ago, I visited my buddy Dave, whose shop I'm graciously in here at the Dyers Guild, and I had revisited the idea of doing what I've done a number of years ago, which is offering to do, for lack of a better term, Cameo posts and or videos. I'll admit, I've done plenty of these for free. I'll probably continue to do them for free, but I thought it would be cool that if I offered a similar service to Cameo without going through their platform and just offered a similar service where you would like me to say something, address someone, whatever the case might be, rather than the money going to me, let's just donate it to the Macbeth Foundation. So that's what we set up on the site. If you look on my website, on the Disc Golf Guy, which I think is in the description, if you look there, you can find that option. For lack of a better term, we use Cameo in quotes, as it's not officially run through their platform. But if you wanted to do that, and I figured I'd love to see the money go to a great place like the Macbeth Foundation. So all of the money, minus the processing fees, all of the money will go to, I'll make the donation then to the Paul Macbeth Foundation, if you're so inclined to want to do something like that. Coincidentally, we added this to the website a few days ago, 3-4 days ago. And I just saw tonight that Brody Smith had kind of put out a reminder on his Instagram that he's on Cameo. Him and Scott Stokely, Nicola Castro, a handful of our pros are, Chris Dickerson. Go out and support them. Go do all that. I love the idea. I love the concept. I just thought it would be kind of cool that that we could also then turn it into a potentially a fundraising opportunity. And I'd love to see the money to go to the Macbeth Foundation. And I don't begrudge anyone who doesn't donate it, but that's what I will, as of now, that's what I will be doing with it. And I didn't even tell them that yet. Don't tell them, it's a secret. But seriously, if you want to do something like that, it's out there. I'll essentially Dropbox or Google Drive you the video. Hopefully, you don't need or want a dissertation out of me. I didn't put a time limit on that. I'm thinking like 30 to 90 seconds is probably appropriate. And then, as always, keep it appropriate. I'll admit I've hesitated on doing some of those in the past because I always thought, well, what if somebody, I think of even kids these days, some kid wants you to say something, little do I know, in middle school culture, somehow this is incredibly offensive or stupid or something like that. So I've always hesitated from doing it. So if I suss it out, as the kids say, it may get rejected. But hopefully, you guys will all be great, responsible, upstanding people and wouldn't try to trick me like that. So New Year's Eve, New Year's Day stuff, also the Cameo, and that's not just for this holiday. For now, 0 people may take advantage of it, hundreds might. I don't know, but it's out there and on my site. So I just want to make sure everyone knew about it. Last night, I guess it was this morning, I had the pleasure of being on a call with the coordinator, the Southeast Asia coordinator, Aaron Herman, and then also the country coordinator and maybe assistant coordinator in Luisa from the Philippines, Bartoloma, with them, along with like 6 or so tournament directors. And the big takeaway was that the Southeast Asia tour has some official sponsors, some big time sponsors, and I'm going to try and pull them up. Funny enough, I type in Southeast Asia and Aaron, there's the picture of you and I from January of 2024 when we were in Taipei. Let me see if I can find the PDGA Southeast Asia tour. I want to get it correct, is what I'm looking to do here. And it's super exciting that this is a thing. And let me find the exact wording because I don't want to screw it up. There's been ongoing conversations now for, I'll say, a couple of months in terms of trying to get it organized as to who would support the tour at a grand scale. And it looks like they have officially locked it down. So you'll see this posted in a number of places, but the 2026 PDGA Asia Tour, powered by eKoon and presented by Chain Disc Golf. And you may think, what is that all about? Well, there are 7 disc golf tournaments that are going to be taking place in Southeast Asia. The first one is going to start in Taiwan in a couple of weeks. Then there's going to be 3 consecutive tournaments in various places throughout Thailand, which is one of the most successfully growing Southeast Asia area and country at this time. So 3 events will be there. Then there's going to be an event in the Philippines. Then there'll be an event in Japan. And then finally, the Tour Championship will wrap up in China. So is that 4 or 5 different countries will be hosting these 7 tournaments, and they have a title and presenting sponsor. I am going to be at all 7 of these events. I will be helping with providing some post-production for the last couple of rounds of each event. And then Kingsley Flett, who you guys have seen post articles with disc golf with Ultra World, as well as working a little bit with the PDGA throughout the last few years, and then does a ton of stuff in Australia. He will be also part of the media team and really the backbone between the two of us, in that he will be writing articles and then also posting pictures throughout all the events as well. So it's very exciting news. All of the tournament directors were on the call last night for the most part and discussing what this is going to mean. The sponsorship is, I was going to say disgusting. The sponsorship is incredibly generous, that especially on the amateur side of things, of being able to contribute a lot of discs to our players over there. And then they really leaned into the idea of having, we'll say, non-US based manufacturing, and that they really leaned into Asia-based manufacturing. Ekundis being one of those, of course, out of China. So it was really cool to see this, how this is unfolding, the support that it's getting. Hopefully, we're going to be able to drive some engagement and then also just some overall interest. I think I announced here a few days ago or a few weeks ago that Kelvin Heimberg right now is planning on playing at least in the first event over in Taiwan. And then at a few of the other events, we see the likes, of course, Philo is at a number of them, Shasta Chris, but then a few of the other U.S. names that we've seen on the tours throughout the last few years include Clay Edwards is signed up for a few of the events. And then out of the Czech Republic, Jakub Semerad is also signed up for a number of events. Jackie Chen is currently signed up for the one in Taiwan. I think we've got Manabu signed up for a few of them. So some of these names that you've seen and heard of and recognized over the last few years are going to be at various stops on this tour. Very few players are going to be at all of them. I don't anticipate that happening for that many players, but you're going to have recognizable names at most, if not all of these stops, which is just super exciting to see. No Magic Terry videos. Sorry, I was just reading back. So that's super exciting. They had the announcement last night. So hats off to everyone over there at PDGA Asia. That's mostly Louisa and Aaron have been driving that bus, but there's a ton of people, Pete and a number of others that are working tirelessly to get things going and get it all organized and off and running. So 2 weeks from today-ish, I'll be starting my first journey over there and heading over to Taipei. That brings me to the next point, which is if you happen to be a purchaser of my disc in a box and or bags, they will be able to get shipped while I'm gone. But if you're looking to make an order, it'd be ideal if you made it sooner than later so that I can personally take care of it before I head out. My daughters are fully capable of fulfilling orders. Dave from the Dyers Guild is going to help out, but anything we can do to be on top of it and get out in front of it, please let me know. And I know there's a number of regulars that have already taken me up on it and said, "Oh, I'll make sure to get an order in that will make sure to hold me over during the time that I'm gone," which is pretty cool to see. We talked about it last week, and we don't have many more answers yet, although I'm going to start seeking them out myself. The conversation that continues to happen of Kristen in the booth, and we saw that it was about this time a week ago that it was announced that we would see Kristen for the 3 European events, the 3 European-based events, as seeing her as a color commentator in the booth. And I don't have anything new to add on to it other than the continued conversation I've seen of people having questions and or weighing in on it. And I was just talking to Josh from Disc Seekers podcast before starting our show tonight. And I feel like you often hear two very distinct lines of thought when it comes to players and commentary. You all the time you hear, "Oh, well, they're a great player, but that doesn't mean they're a good commentator. Just because they were a good player definitely doesn't mean they're a good commentator and they're terrible at it." You've heard that. And on the flip side of that same coin, I feel like you frequently hear people say, "Oh, they're such a good player. They've got to be in the booth. We've got to get them in the booth and we've got to hear from them." Well, we've learned that's not necessarily the case either. Uh, uh, the flip side to all of those, though, is, well, who are they? Why are we listening to them? They don't know what they're talking about. They were never a good player. They never won a C tier. They never even won a B tier, whatever the case might be. And so the reverse of, we'll say ripping on good players that they don't feel are good commentators, the reverse of that is having what people would say could be good commentators, but they didn't necessarily have the accolades to go with it in terms of their performance on the course. And I find it so funny that it feels obviously, and I know I'm talking to the world of internet and haters, but it feels so funny that you can have the exact opposite comments get made. And I'm not saying there's not some truth to this. Of course, just because you were a good player doesn't mean you are or are going to be a good commentator. And just because you didn't win a big event doesn't mean you can't be a great commentator. I understand that the sentiments of that. It's just funny that you often hear those two almost get flipped on their head with every single person. And so I'm excited. I said it last week. I'm excited to see how Kristen handles it, in that she, at least in interviews, has always been feeling to me like she's so straightforward. She's concise. Her English is better than than many Americans that I talk to. Um, there's a directness that I feel like comes with just a lot of European culture, maybe a little less beating around the bush sometimes, and is just very direct. And it's not necessarily meant to. It's not meant to be insulting. It's just meant as matter of fact. I feel like we get a lot of that out of a lot of the players that we talk to, and yet she played with these players. She competed against them. Obviously, beat most, if not all of them, at one point or another. And there will be a line where, although she may have been very direct and concise and careful with her words, there may be this feeling of awkwardness of, if she's at all dismissive is not the word. If she's at all frank about some of the things happening on the course, will it for her will it be uncomfortable to call out? I don't know. I'm interested to see how that goes. And we all know some people are going to love whatever she does, and some people are going to hate whatever she does. That's no doubt. I feel like that's all commentary. But it will be really interesting to see, especially when she's coming from a place of being so dominant. And you could say the same about Juliana Korver. The difference being, we didn't see her play regularly. Well, most of the present day viewers didn't. I did. But we didn't have a lot of other video. We didn't have other conversations about it. At most, you were filmed once, maybe twice a year, and John Houck and Stork would do commentary on it 6 months later, and that was the final nine at the World Championships, and that was it. Now, the fact that we've got live commentary options almost every weekend on the network, and then we have post-production commentary options time and time again, we're just breeding a entirely different generation of commentators, and then of people that are viewing and then spectating and commenting on the sport. So I'm interested. I'm excited about it. Of course, I've said that before. I just the overall culture of how it gets handled will be exciting. We know, I think largely she'll be with Essa, who is who feels like a fan favorite by a lot of people, understandably. Super great guy, and we'll see how those energies feed off of each other. I think booth chemistry can have as much to do with it as the players that, or the people that are in there. There's sometimes when you feel the booth chemistry might not be there by any given two players or people. And so we'll see how that goes. Again, I think Essa is incredibly easy to get along with and to talk to. I personally have enjoyed everyone that I've ever worked with. And I feel like being able to adapt your style and or get done what the goal is what's best to make it best for the viewing experience. And I feel like sometimes that's adjusting for every single team and combo. And some people I feel like do that better than others. So it'll be awesome to see. I keep saying the word interesting, but I'm genuinely excited about it. I will follow it up with looking into my schedule and calendar, and I was a little less certain of it last week. Now I'm a little more certain of it. I don't know. I will go ahead and preface this by saying I don't believe this is set in stone just yet, and every single detail is not set in stone. But by and large, this upcoming season, I will be in the booth a lot less. And I'd go as far as saying by a lot less, I think I mean zero, if I'm checking the schedule. The Pro Tour has informed me that the way they're strategizing, if that's the right word, the way they're doing it has a lot more regional and local, I don't want to say constraints, strategy to it. Meaning, what I'm saying about that is, as of now, I believe there are a number of events that I will be traveling to continue to do interviews and sideline reporting. Yeah, and then also, of course, the post round interviews, things of that nature. Most of those are regional to me in the Midwest. There's a few exceptions. There's a couple of events that I believe I'm on the schedule for that will have me out in the field and doing questions for a number of our bigger events. There's to give an example, there's been a number of times this last season, for instance, where you saw, and just one example is you'd see Nate Perkins with the, we'll say, FPO field in the morning, and then in the afternoon, he will hang back at, we'll say, Tournament Central or Media Central, and then do MPO interviews as MPO players come off the course, whether it's a hot round or a story or whatever. He'll do interviews with them on the MPO side. And that's because he's flipping roles with Brian. And Brian in the morning was maybe doing hot round interviews, and then at the break, and then come back in the afternoon. And then Brian will go out with the MPO players and do the on-course reporting. So at some of the bigger events, that was very common this year. That's not new. I think that's been going on for a couple of years, actually. I think back to a Worlds even a couple of years ago. Anyway, that's been going on for a number of years. It's kind of flip-flopping those two roles or those two tasks on a given day. But that's what you're doing. And in 2026, as of right now, it is not scheduled that I will be in the booth for any of the booth assignments. And we all know that I have, for the last 3, 4, 5 years, maybe longer, been traveling out to Bend. And it's no secret that when you're doing an event in Bend on the West Coast, and then you are getting up to commentate on, we'll say, FPO on an East Coast event, if you're talking about a 9 a.m. show open on the East Coast, that means you're in your seat at 8 a.m., or that means that means the show, so to speak, you need to be in your seat an hour earlier than that, which would be 8 a.m. on the East Coast, which means on the West Coast, that's 5 a.m. that you're in the seats ready to go for the day. We have some prep and everything else. I've been doing that for a number of years. It has seemed like a lot of the events happen to have been on the West Coast. Usually we're closing out the year. For the last 3 or 4 years, I've done GMC and MVP back to back, and then a couple of weeks later doing the Tour Championship right after that. And all of those are, of course, on the East Coast. Last 2 years with Supreme Flight Open being our seasonal opener. Same thing, that's happening in Florida. I've been on the West Coast for that. And rather than me traveling to the West Coast to be the host for that event, the Pro Tour is logistically saving the capital of sending me over there and joining the booth and doing all of that travel for those events. And I think you're going to see them leaning into Nate Perkins as, filling that role more often. Nate, if you don't know, not that I'm doxing him, but Nate lives in Bend, Oregon. He's moved out there in the last couple of years. And so Nate would be coming from a few miles away to be the host in those scenarios, as opposed to me going out and spending the entire weekend out in Bend. And on the East Coast, I believe there is a booth set up over at although Charlie's very skilled as well. There's a booth essentially set up at Brian Earhart's place, which is on the East Coast in the Charlotte area, as many of you know. And I think Brian will be then hosting, so to speak, hosting people potentially to either be at his house or remote or whatever they're going to do for a lot of the East Coast stuff. So what that leaves is the Midwest. And as far as I've been informed, it looks like most of my assignments, all of my assignments, will be in a reporter role for a lot of our Midwestern events. So interesting development. That's certainly a little bit new. I was told this is not performance related. and that it is logistically and financially driven. And so I'm super excited, of course, to be at these events. A lot of these events I've been going to. When you look at D-Glow, which this year is ultimately replaced by the World Championships over in Michigan. I traveled there this year. I traveled down to Ledgestone. That's the closest pro tour that's to me. So I was in the on the field for that one. I'll be in the field for that one again this year. Uh, Preserve doubles. It looks like rather than being in a booth, I will be out in the field for that one. So I think Des Moines is on that schedule. So that's those are all regional to me. Those are all times I get in a car and I'm driving to the event for the weekend to perform those on course roles, as opposed to being in a booth. In my perfect world, if I'm being just brutally, I don't brutally honest isn't the word. If I'm being frank, I love the idea, and this is not financially where we're at right now. My perfect world is going to an event and then hosting the booth near the event or at the course, aka Finland Worlds. And I know that's an extreme, then it was Finland, but anytime, or look at the worlds before that, maybe is even a better example. In Virginia, we were at Ivy Hill. We had the booth at Ivy Hill at the course. I could literally look out the window and see the green of hole 18 at Ivy Hill. Completely personally and selfishly, that's my dream scenario. I don't know if there's any angel investors out there, or fairy godmothers. That's my personal dream, is to be at an event, but to be in the booth at the event. And that logistically is expensive and not consistent. That's the problem, is going to an event, you never know what internet you're going to have. And let's be fair, most of these places you're at a park. And so a consistent internet and a consistent booth is incredibly difficult to come by and or expensive, insanely expensive to do. The few exceptions that we had, Ivy Hill, we had internet that's coming from the infrastructure that was there. Finland, of course, we had internet from the infrastructure that was right there. That's the World Championships. But when you go out to D-Glow, and if you wanted a booth at that course, there's not an internet plug-in, as they call it. Nobody calls it that. It's just an Ethernet hookup out there in the middle of that park with solid internet. And that's why we don't see a lot of booths at the events. Now, the second best version of that is to go to the event and then have the booth nearby. I think that's the second best, my second most favorite scenario. But it's almost impractical. Not impractical. It's practical, but it's hardly worthwhile. And what I mean by that is, I could travel to Michigan for the D-Glow, let's say, and just like they did this year, you have the booth that's 10 minutes away. I love that you're nearby the event. It's not the same vibe, of course, as being right at the course. But the huge advantage to that is, when you're done commentating for the day and you go to the Fly Mart, you go to the fundraiser, you go mini golfing as part of the event, you go to the ice cream social, you go to dinner, you likely can run into and or connect with some of the players. So you're still getting that advantage of being there with the players and being able to interact with them. There's a big difference, and I always go to this example. There's a big difference at Worlds last year in Virginia, when after a day of commentating, a bunch of us went to the local restaurant that was supporting the event. A bunch of us went there and ate. And as we were sitting down getting ready to eat, there's Anthony Barella and a handful of other top players that were also eating. And yeah, you don't want to be all business all the time, but it was great to just have a follow-up question. Hey, what happened on hole 9? Or, how far out of bounds were you? Or did that just flip? Or was that the win? Like, the kinds of questions you might have that either are just good for you to know and or can get integrated into the next day's show. So that's why I'm all about being at events, is it gives you those opportunities. Or even before the tournament, the day happens, the round happens, You can step outside, and then maybe it's 2 hours before you go live on the men's show, and I'm out at the practice green, and that's when I run into Parker Welk, and he tells me, actually, yeah, I've shot great, and I'm on the lead card, but my back hurts, or whatever. I'm making all this up. But those are the things that we get when we're on site that just can't be substituted if you're not there. It's not the same as texting somebody and asking some of these questions. You can do that, and I will do that, but it's just not quite the same. And then even then, it's the variety of people and scenarios. When you're at a practice basket, sometimes I might be able to interact with 10 different people in a matter of a half an hour. And maybe each one of them has a little snippet. And it's not necessarily a secret or an exclusive, but you learn things. Some things you can talk about, some things you can't, but you learn those things. That's why I'm so adamant and love the idea of being on site. The problem is on site booths come with uh, usually spotty or challenging cellular upload signals, and they come with the added expense. So that's why we love having a fixed booth in a place like Charlotte, a fixed booth like we've had in Bend, whatever the case might be. That's where those fixed structures have such a huge advantage. The trade-off is you don't get some of that interaction. So that's a long-winded backstory. I haven't read any of the comments yet, but that not only kind of gives you what I'm doing, but also if you had your druthers, is that what they said? Yeah, if you could just sprinkle fairy dust over the entire situation, and somebody says, "What would be your ideal scenario or situation?" That would be my answer. And obviously, we don't always get your ideal scenario or situation, and you do with what you have to work with, and whether those are financial constraints, personnel constraints, technology constraints. Funny, most of those things always roll back ultimately to financial constraints. But right now, I am not scheduled. This could maybe change, maybe not. I don't make those decisions. I am currently, though, not scheduled to be in the booth, in any booth with any color commentators for the 2026 season. So it's going to be a different role in that I will be exclusively on the course. And if you ask, do you like being on the course? Absolutely. Everything a lot of what I just said still applies to being on the course. However, I personally really love to be in the booth as well. Again, if I had all the magic pixie dust or fairy dust in the world that I could sprinkle everywhere, I personally would love a 50-50 split, roughly. And that was pretty close to last year. I was at a number of events where I was the on-course reporter, and then I was in the booth for a number of events where I was the play-by-play commentator. I personally love mixing it up and having a little bit of both. But for 2026, as of right now, I will be scaled back, and I will be doing on-course reporting. So who knows what silly questions I'll be asking of players and of people while we're out there on the course. So I wanted to share that with everyone. They're still working on the details. Things could still change. I don't make any of these decisions, quite honestly. Things are offered to me and explained to me, and I try to be a team player as much as I possibly can. But that's what it's looking like for at least the 2026 season. Does that change for future years? Of course, I think strategies will continue to change. We just talked at length of seeing Kristen. I think you're going to see a couple of commentators be either scaled back or possibly not even working with the network at all. And then I think we're going to see a few other people added into the mix. So that's what I know. I thought I'd share that with you guys for the 2026 season for myself. I don't know if it had anything to do me in the booth less, because they let me pitch or require me to pitch morning wood, but I can't not pitch the rim jobber. What? All right. In all seriousness, I know I brought this up last week. I want to thank Dave. Dave has had such an influx of orders with this particular product, such a massive influx of orders, that some of the raw materials and the components to the kits that he sends out actually had to be completely reordered, and maybe even ordered more than once. which is awesome to see. I love you guys seeing, love seeing everyone not only get what they need, but then supporting a fellow disc golfer. This is not my product. I don't know if that was clear in the commercial or the video we put out a few weeks ago now, or a week and a half ago. These are not mine. These are in fact Dave's, and this is what it looks like. Many of you have already seen it in the commercial, but this is what one of them looks like that has an actual face on it. Here's one that doesn't have anything on it, or on the backside, I should say. And then they're ergonomic in that you can hold them in all these different ways. And then you have your text or information or whatever you want. You have lasered, and ultimately it goes right on the stamp. And then it comes with, or you can order, excuse me, you can order an ink pad, which is one of the industry leading ink pads. He had to order more of these because he's actually gone through them all. We've done, now some people say I don't like it in the rim. And then you can do other regular stamps as well. Some people said, oh, I just want it on the back of a disc or on the front of a disc or whatever. We practiced, played around with like an oversized Disc Golf Guy logo. We've really played around with an oversized My Disc in a Box. So if I want to stamp this huge on a box before I ship it out, we did one even of that size. So you don't have to exclusively get them that go in the rims as this one does. You can get one that is just a regular stamp on the front or on the back of a disc or on your Trapper Keeper or wherever you need something to be stamped. So reach out. There's some links on my site, and then you can also head over to the Dyers Guild website, which I'll have linked in the description. So I wanted to give an update. More than 100 of these have been shipped out, which is awesome. And I even personally, I feel honored. I even personally helped assemble a few of them because so many orders came in, and everybody was trying to get them, whether it was for a Christmas gift or they just felt like they needed one in general. We've been slaving away at getting these all put together, and then Dave gets them all shipped out for you. So I really appreciate it. Again, there's links in the description. I'm not really here just to sell those, but I do want to say thank you to everyone that's been supporting getting one of these. And then also in turn, Dave has been so great to me in helping with a ton of stuff. If you see something that looks better or is better or sounds better on my site or in my videos, you probably have Dave to thank. That's I'm not getting better. I'm getting help, and it's coming from Dave. So wanted to make sure you guys know all of that. If I look at my list of things for today, I think I've covered almost everything. Southeast Asia tour with the brand new sponsorships. Awesome to see. Of course, Thailand, the event specifically on Samui is almost full. 88 people for the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday play. That's currently sold out. I'd get on the waiting list. Somebody's going to have some travel problem or have to withdraw probably. I don't want it, but it'll probably happen. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday has a bunch of divisions, and then upper divisions are Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there's already 75 people on that list out of 88. So 88 are sold out, and then 75 out of 88 are sold out. And that's all for Samui. There's still open spots for Bangkok. There's still open spots for Taiwan. There's a few spots that are still open for Chiang Mai. So those are your first 4 events that are all happening next month. But get out there. If you got questions about traveling to Southeast Asia, Aaron's on the board. I can help out. By no means do I consider myself a travel agent, but I definitely have learned a few things within the last 7 years of traveling over there. Some of the tips and tricks that I feel like are a little bit more useful for some of that long range travel. Well, for most of you, it's long range. Even though we'll see a ton of players from Finland and Sweden, Germany, Estonia, yeah, all of those different countries will be represented as well. So I'm looking forward to all of it. If you're interested in supporting any of that Southeast Asia coverage, maybe you have a shop or a product or a club or a tournament, all of those videos throughout those 7 events, I do have opportunities to still purchase advertising or plugs within those 7 events. So please, please reach out to me. I was blown away last year. A number of people that played in Samui specifically really wanted to jump on board. But now I've got action coming to you for 7 different events And I do have some room for ads and sponsorships within those. So please reach out to me. I think one of the things that's undervalued is people advertising their big events coming up. And yes, it's going to lose its luster if somebody's watching this, watching the coverage 2 years later. I get that, but hopefully they'll understand anyway. So if maybe you're hosting an event, your club is hosting an event in September, or even in May or June or July, whatever, anytime in the future that's after March, most of the views will come obviously within a few weeks of that video being put out, and they're all going to be out by mid or early March anyway, as I'll try and get them all out quickly after the event. That gives you months of potential time to gain a little bit more exposure for that event. So that's just one example. Maybe you have a challenger to the stamp that date. No, don't do that. I can't advertise a competitor to what those are. I think that's about it. Have I kept it short? It still went an hour. How do I just talk and talk and talk? Well, here's what I'm going to do. I genuinely want to keep it short. You've got Christmas shopping to do. Maybe I do as well. And I know I got to get a few more steps in before our day is over. So let me kind of quickly run through. There won't be an after show tonight. Of course, we'll have extra giveaways next week. Let me run through a bunch of the questions or comments and see if there's anything that needs to be addressed out here. Yep. Chef Aaron, who I was referencing earlier, has been over to Southeast Asia a number of times, also very versed in the travels. Doc Zen, if you're sleepy, have a good night. Get some sleep. Good night to you. Thanks for joining if you're still around. Too bad Jonathan from Lat64 wasn't on there. Kristen and Jonathan always have good energy in the videos. I agree. Kristen needs a time. The conversation is stemmed around through Kristen and Cat merch would be an interesting. That's a fair statement. They would be an interesting commentary team. Kristen needs a time filler partner. She definitely a Nate Sex in the booth. I'll say this. Keep in mind, and I'm not going to go on and on about this, but also always keep in mind, in theory, when you're looking at commentary teams, and I know a lot of people mix mash two people together all the time, just keep in mind that generally speaking, you try to have a play-by-play person that is often then the host, and then you try to have the color person. So you have somebody trying to give you like the basics of what is going on, and the other person's giving you the why is it going on. And also that play-by-play person then is doubling up as the host of the show and has to perform the task of getting you, as we say, getting you in and out of commercial, throwing to break, which sounds easier than it is when you do it so many times, getting you to a break, helping segue through the various graphics that are coming up on screen, helping lead the conversation. Whether you're involved or not is another story, but at least, starting and leading conversations as you're getting ready for a graphic to come up, because you're going to talk about Holland Hanley's progress over the last 5 years. And then when that graphic comes up, who's going to have what conversation pieces about it. I'm just saying that's the role of the in our ecosystem. That's the role of the play-by-play / host. So sometimes just keep in mind, a lot of times, let me rephrase that. I hear people say, oh, so-and-so would be great with so-and-so. And those two people might be incredibly brilliant and insightful and are incredible speakers, talkers, they talkie. You have to also think about who would play the host role, who would play that specific thing, because it's not just a free-for-all. It's not like a graphic just appears and, I'll take this one. The point is somebody has to be that person. And you can have a lot of insightful people that talk about a lot of things, but you also need to make sure that you're having people that are filling that specific task as well. I'm not saying Cat Merch couldn't do it. I'm not saying Kristen couldn't do it. I'm just thinking, just always keep in mind big picture. You need a host of the show, at least in live. I don't know that you need one as much in post, and that's where I think you get a slightly maybe more relaxed banter and more conversationalist, even potentially. I feel like post is an entirely different ballgame. Well, I don't feel like it. It is. I've done enough decade of both to say that. Also, not that I think a lot of people do it, but if you screw up big enough in post, you can always hit the delete key and start back over on hole 7 in the middle of the fairway. Clearly, we can't do that. And that's not to say one's better or worse than the other, but that is a reality. Is if something's bad enough or botched or is dumb enough or is offensive, whatever, it can always get deleted in post. Not so much when it's live. And I'm not saying any of these potential people would have that problem. I'm just, again, there are some significant differences. I don't think everyone that's good in post is going to be good in live, and I don't think everyone that's good in live is necessarily going to be good in post. They're different animals. And with all that being said, it would be funny to see Jonathan play a role in commentary slash live. I mean, he is so good on camera, clearly, and he's funny. Not everybody loves humor too, right? Somewhere we're going to arrive at. You can't please everyone all the time. Honestly, I hate this for you. You're a legend. Well, thanks, Doc. At the end of the day, I'm told it's logistics, and so with that, that's what I can share with the world. That's what I know. Just tuning in. Merry Christmas. Appreciate it, Cody. Hope you and the family are all doing well there. Woke up from a TV show nap before coming in here. Okay, Doc. Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully, I didn't put you back to sleep. DGPT letting people slip away more and more lately. Yeah, I mean, Dust Esports, who's a professional esports commentator, has had some various tasks and roles within the Disc Golf Pro Tour, along with some post production, and was not part of the crew this last year. And Dustin, I know there's legit. Yeah, all I can say is there's money and logistics, and that's about all I can point to. I thought Terry was the color. I'm usually quite rosy red here, but I'll admit I think I struggle with that sometimes, in that I'll interject things that maybe you wouldn't hear from a play-by-play person. Sometimes I can't resist. If I see something and I good, bad, or indifferent, I call out positive things. Of course, I call out negative things. It is difficult to perfectly stay in one specific lane all of the time. And let's be clear, once in a blue moon, Valerie Jenkins could be, or Nate Doss could be wrapping up a thought, and then it's right at that time, production is in our ear saying, okay, wrap up this thought. As soon as you wrap up this thought, we're going to break. And they're yelling at you to basically wrap up your thought, shut up, and get to break. That is perfectly fine for Nate Doss at that point, even though I'm the host, for Nate or a Nate Sexton to say, Par's is, Par's disappointing on that hole after that drive. And with that, we're going to head to break. Like, there's bleed over, of course. I'm not saying there's not. There's some. But there are also, defined roles that you're trying to stick within. So, but sometimes that bleeds over, and I'm not offended by that. I've had both Nate Doss and Nate Sexton say to me, hey, I'm sorry I threw to commercial or I did that. I'm like, if it's what rolls and it's what fits and it's what's natural, just roll with it. We don't need to be splitting some of these hairs, in my opinion. And I feel like that all comes with time. Like, there's something to be said about some of your teams out there and working together, sitting next to each other, because even though you can't see us maybe in that moment, I may, I may slap Sexton on the arm and be like, yeah, like, keep rolling with your thought, or I'm telling him to cut or whatever. Those are some of the things that are happening. And that all comes with some of that team camaraderie when you're looking at commentary teams. Terry is definitely play by play. JVD is here. Could you give a brief about what's going on with Terry for people who just came on? JVD is here. JVD's up with his family, just so anyone knows. He traveled up north to a northern part of Wisconsin where his wife is from and let me know at League last night that I'd be rolling solo. And I said, thank goodness. What a Christmas gift to me. One less Johnny V for the night. Just kidding. I love him. I miss him so much. Do you think that knowing that you can delete in post makes it easier to not delete in post? Yeah, maybe. I mean, that was asked much earlier. Yeah, I mean, I kind of go with the rule right now, especially with as much post as I've been doing or have done throughout the last decade and a half. Yeah, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's we're coming up on 15 years of my channel or 16. I, I make a minor mistake. I flub a little bit. I'm not scrubbing that to go back. And it's not because I don't care. It's because I'm human. And if it's not egregious, I don't want to say it makes me more relatable because maybe you don't screw up. But if it's not egregious, it's not crazy, it's not the dumbest thing I've ever said. I didn't butcher the name. It just feels you could be there all day getting nitpicky, and then it almost would probably sound weird with how you could make it sound. So yeah, maybe there's a security in knowing that you can delete, but you don't necessarily want to. And the quick tangent I'll use to that is oftentimes, including a few days ago, I will have a list of things that I want to talk about in promoting or sharing a product or talking about an event. And maybe there's 5 bullet points. It could take me a half hour to spit out 5 bullet points. Like that aren't even that tough. And I know what I'm talking about. And I passionately believe in it, but it might take me a half an hour to eloquently spit out those 5 bullet points. Whereas sometimes I could just hit record and go through it on the first take, and it is 98% as good as 10 more takes. And it's like, one take, that was good. Like, let's do it. We're rolling with it. Now, if it's only 5% as good as those other ones, it doesn't do, then you're starting over. But there's a funny pressure, at least on me, and I don't know how many other people have this problem on camera. Sometimes you hit record and off the cuff, you roll through it. It can come out way cleaner than if I do 20 more takes and I'm trying to regurgitate specific things. Whereas if I just go with my gut from the first time, it makes me feel so much better to just knock it out that way if I can. Now, sometimes the problem is you go through that first take of something and you may have forgotten a key element. And then the next time you do it, you think of the key element, but then you lose a different one. And then eventually you're 30 takes in. So if you can knock it out in once and it does the job, that's how I like to roll if I can. Otherwise, I could be here all night trying to share stuff. Dust, sorry, I'm rolling back up. Terry is primarily staying in the Midwest this year. Yep, that's exactly it. Johnny V just summarized. Doc Zen, is this probably a full-length live stream tonight, like 2+ hours, wrapping up some things at the moment? Terry most likely will not be in the booth for 2026. Yeah, okay, those are your cliff notes that those guys are jumping in on. Appreciate it. I mean, I can understand why I was let go. Dustin says, I have no earthly idea why you wouldn't remain a mainstay. Again, logistics, money. Rest in peace, Adam the Woo. Merry Christmas. Love y'all. Got to finish some things up real quick. Have a good night, Cody. Appreciate it. Happy Festivus for the rest of us. I love that. Appreciate it. Post feels like bowling with bumpers up, but never actually needing to use them. That is a great analogy. I love that. Aaron says, take care. Yes. Take care. The flubs are what makes the shorts go viral. That's true. You screw up some things, you leave them in there. Sometimes I'll say something. Here's an example. I may say, man, this feels like the easiest hole on the course. And I literally haven't maybe even checked the scores or the stats for that. And I'm just blurting that out. And then it comes back and it's the second easiest hole on the course or the third easiest. I'm not going to go back, rewind, because now I've clicked a couple times while I'm doing commentary. I'm not going to go back, rewind, and re-record over that and take me out saying that. I'm okay. That's such a good example of it too, because I do that or have done that. Uh, it's just not, to me. It's just not. I don't want to say not worth it, but it's not worth it. Like, it feels like the easiest hole, and then it turns out it's the second easiest hole, and it's by 0.2 tenths of a stroke. Okay, well, my statement then wasn't crazy or massively inaccurate, and I'm okay with owning that point that I had made earlier. Glenn says Terry Christmas. Thank you. Makes more relatable and human. Stanza. Listening to Terry's commentary today, and I think people like to say something, and he hopes the people throwing will prove it wrong. Makes good video. Terry likes to say something, hopes the people throwing. Yeah, okay. Terry and Go Throw about to rip into the live realm. I don't know what Go Throw's plan is. I don't think live is necessarily on their radar. Most, if not all, of the camera operators for Go Throw also work in the live realm. And you're talking about 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 Go Throw camera ops on a weekend, to then doing post, to then having the world of live where we have 20 or 30 or 40 people on the team. You have audio technicians, you have replay people, you have, of course, 2 or 3 separate hosts that are somewhere usually offsite. You have a on-site person. Let's just say you had the same 6 camera operators, but then you have a producer, a director. Like, there's a million more moving parts. And not to say there couldn't be a scaled back version of live, but then I think everybody would complain about it. And I thought about this. You think, could Smashbox do some old school stuff and be live? And then I just worry everyone, well, this sucks. This isn't as good as the Pro Tour. Well, it can't be. You're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars versus, maybe a $10,000 budget for a day or something. They're just apples to apples. And so you worry, if you came out with something, even if you advertised it and pitched it as the light version or the scaled back version or the minimalist version, the first set of barking would be just nothing but, this isn't as good, this sucks. And people wouldn't be able to, I feel like people wouldn't understand, hey, this is live light. And I feel like GoThrow would be challenged with exactly that. If they ever came out with live, anything that's not doing at least what the Pro Tour is doing or the DGN is doing, I feel like, you're, fair or not, you're going to get a ton of heat and criticism. And people like for Terry to be wrong, and gets 9,000 comments saying, haha, Terry, you were wrong. Yeah, people complain in disc golf. Terry, never. Yeah, once in a while, or yeah. Thank you. Next week, we plan on being live, as far as I know of. It will be the 30th. So yeah, it'll probably be the last live that I'm for sure part of for at least a few weeks, knowing that my Asia travels are coming up. So we do plan to be live next week. As I said, the day after that, New Year's Eve day, be hosting the Luna Battle Pack. So if you're anywhere in the Milwaukee, Wisconsin, southeastern Wisconsin area, and that interests you, it is out on Disc Golf Scene. You can check that out. Or if you just need a battle pack sent to you and you want to just buy a battle pack, that's out on my website as well, over on the Disc Golf Guy. I think I've covered everything. I've got a few more things to do myself tonight. Some of you, mostly men, probably have some shopping or things to take care of. If I'm just playing into stereotypes, I wear that hat myself right now. So hopefully you guys have good, safe travels. The weather in the Midwest is incredibly mild. And so hopefully we don't have any issues when it comes to travel concerns or snowstorms or anything. Also a relatively brown Christmas in a lot of Wisconsin, at least, which isn't my favorite, but we'll have some mild temperatures. So hopefully travels both by car or truck, and then also even by air, are good and safe for most people. Great show. Merry Christmas, Terry. And again, DGPT can kiss. um, what is your top three DGPT events that you looked forward to purely based on fan interaction during your time on and off the course? All right, real quick. I don't. Yeesh. It's been a couple of years, but you cannot beat Maple Hill. Like, how could you? It's obviously insane. It's awesome. Deglow people are awesome. I was there this year. I was at Ledgestone. A million people there because you have so many players and so many extracurriculars. Like, there's a reason there's 2,000 total people at Ledgestone every year, and it continues to grow. There's so much vending of all sorts of things, not just discs, but other things going on at Ledgestone. I feel like that's such a no-brainer, and people are in the Midwest, right? That's 4 hours from me, and so it's although we don't all love all of Illinois here in Wisconsin, especially after a Bears victory this weekend. I believe I just had to say that. Uh, it's still Midwest, and that feels good. But again, Preserve's great. DMC, Des Moines Challenge, great. Like, eh, they all put a smile on my face. They really do. I love going to events in any capacity. Um, Idlewild has done a phenomenal job over the years as well. They have a great feel and a vibe there, a great culture that totally embraces, the disc golf tournament coming into town. So I don't know if you can go wrong. I would have to really think about a place where disc golf isn't, and this is a reason why there's a pro tour event there, right? And then you have your obvious Finland. I mean, a few of those just don't have as many fans, and then you have a lot more, we'll say, introverted people, which is fine. I love that, but it's a different vibe when you're in Norway versus when you're in at Maple Hill. We'll just say that there's and that's not to take anything away from the Norwegians or the Finns or anything like that. They're just a more polite, quiet, reserved, introverted, all of those things. So it's a different feel to it. Kovac says, "Don't leave me hanging." Did I not answer? I think I answered your question. Okay, I just did. Yeah, Merry Christmas, Greg, as well. Thank you so much for joining tonight. But I think I answered your question, kind of, Kovac. I mean, let's put it this way: I can't think of an event that I wouldn't be excited to go back to. Clearly, there's turnout at some events that are bigger than others, but when you're there, you're surrounded by the hardcore enthusiasts. An example, number of years, many years, almost every year, I went to Jonesboro. There's just not a ton of disc golfers, diehards that are coming to that community purely because of location. The people that are there are phenomenal, but we don't see the thousands upon thousands that are coming there purely just based on its location. So that would be an example of the people are great. I would just love to see more of them. So, Terry, must-haves when you just bought a compact disc golf cart, done got a putting pouch. Yeah, I don't have any disc golf carts. I've kind of avoided them. I don't know if someday I'll get on that bandwagon. And I know there's a lot of great ones out there. To me, I think the number one part of having a disc golf cart, almost without question, assuming you can sit on it, because that's a no-brainer. So it should be sturdy enough for even big boys like me to sit on. Without a doubt, the number one thing you have to have is something that adequately holds up your umbrella. If you're not doing it, I would just take your cart and throw it in the lake at that point. Like, if your cart either accessory or isn't either built with or you have the accessory to hold your umbrella with it popped open and then covering you, your cart's dead to me. That's what I'd say. Which is big words for a guy who doesn't even own a disc golf cart. But if I did, and when I do someday, the umbrella holder has got to be it. I just don't know what you're doing with your life if you're not having the umbrella being held up for you while you're trying to futz around with drying your disc, using a chalk bag of sorts, doing this, doing that, taking scores on your phone. You're doing all of these things. Put the umbrella up above you, let it sit there, and it should be protecting you from the elements. Like it just feels silly if you're not. All right, a full 15, 20, whatever. It's only an hour. Still going to be one of the shortest ever Smash Boxes. Finally, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm going to say thank you again for joining. I do hope whatever you celebrate, wherever you travel, whatever the case might be, I hope that you can celebrate it with loved ones. And if you can't be with them, I hope that you can have communication with them. Some way share your love and support and embrace those either around you virtually or physically, next to you, whatever the case might be. I do wish everyone good travels, and again, whatever you celebrate or whatever your festive mood or spirit holiday is or isn't, I support it. So I'm happy for you. Be safe, have fun. Looking forward to closing out the season. A lot of people argue and say, "Man, let's just get this year done. Time for a new one." Live in the moment. Live in this year. I'm excited for tomorrow just as much as a month from now. It doesn't matter. Embrace each and every day as you can, and make the most of them instead of trying to look forward to the next day. I know sometimes you want to reset, and sometimes you have to get over some tough stuff, but embrace every day as much as you possibly can because you only have so many days here. So thank you. Thanks for joining. I'm going to click the button and look forward to seeing you guys next week. We'll have Johnny V. Maybe we'll have some breaking news or some other insights or updates. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but we'll definitely have some giveaways, and I know you guys love those. So thanks again, Dave, over at the Dyers Guild. There's some links in the description below if you've got any questions or you need any products from the Dyers Guild, or you're looking to support me in any capacity. There's a bunch more stuff on my website, all over at thediscgolfguy.com. Thank you for supporting Smashbox as well. Here we are, a little more than 11 years. Somehow we're still kicking. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time you step inside the Smashbox. Wait, what? The button? The stream will end immediately. No longer be. It says not yet or end.